Another way in which you would pick up the social norm is by watching what's on TV. And there is a very nice paper on the telenovelas in Brazil. So Brazil had it's a very Catholic country, and until relatively recently was not very free society, until about 15, 20 years ago. And was certainly not particularly encouraging family planning. But the telenovelas, which are like soap operas, became very, very popular. And they became very popular in part because they were quite good. And the reason why they were quite good, I'm told, because I'm yet to watch one, my Portuguese being not quite up to crack. The reason why they were quite good is that a lot of people who would otherwise have been artists in other spheres could not really do it very easily in Brazil, so they all went and did telenovelas. And they were aired on one channel called Rede Globo, which was not available everywhere at the beginning, which progressively spread. So what this article did is that they looked at the diffusion of the Rede Globo all over Brazil and compared the number of children that women had before and after the introduction of Rede Globo in places where it got introduced. So exploiting that way the progressive introduction. Of course, the cities got it first, and then the more rural areas. So places that got it first were, in general, had fewer children. But if we compare before and after you get it, in places that get it and places that don't, then we get a sense about what is the effect of Rede Globo. And what they found is that the women who were born, who were of reproductive age after Rede Globo was introduced, had fewer children in their lifetime than the places that were in reproductive age before Rede Globo came. And another thing that was kind of cute as a result of that is that many of the kids that were born in this area were born after the characters of the telenovelas. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's the reason why this happened is that the telenovelas were promoting, not necessarily for the sake of it, but the person, the main characters in the telenovelas were people, usually with some of them with 0 children, or if they had children, with a small family. So they were promoting a model of like a modern woman who had few children, which kind of helped or contributed to slowly shift the norm. Yes. Yeah, so that's a very good point, which is always with this like different in different kind of strategy, you always are worried about that, which is we are not comparing directly the city to the rural areas, but we are comparing the rural areas as they are becoming industrial enough or developed enough to get the channel. Because presumably the channel decided to come when there was enough people who were rich enough to buy a television, and therefore they may have been looking not only at the level of development of the place, but how it was moving. And if that is the case, then we could be picking part of those trends. So that is something where we could never be completely sure because we haven't randomized. So those underlying trends, we don't observe them. And so it's quite possible that you are right. And these doubts remain. What the author does is trying to look at whether there are trends in fertility before that seem, that the fertility was already a little bit declining before the channel came in, we would probably observe if the stories you're talking about is the one, which is, as I see that a place is becoming more industrialized, richer, etc., I'm putting the TV there as the president of Rede Globo. And they don't see that. They see kind of a shift in trend around the introduction of the television. But you might be entirely right. That's also why I like the first name thing, that the kids were named after the people in the series, because that is less likely to be coming from industrialization in general and more likely to be coming from the fact that you've seen them. But that's very well taken. Right, exactly. So that's exactly what they are exploiting, is that they are trying to look at, basically it doesn't reduce the fertility of people who who were already past their prime fertile age when the TV came. It reduces only the fertility of women who were, in their late teens and then early 20 when the TV came, and whose views were shaped by this. Yeah. And this is exactly this timing that helps, to some extent, discriminate between their idea that the TV caused the reduction of the fertility and your perfectly legitimate point that, in fact, in part, it could also be that TV is just a proxy for the social progress happening.